Welcome to Binging the Force, a Star Wars rewatch podcast with the Rocky Mountain Fan Force. Tonight's episode, The Book of Boba Fett, Season 1, Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land. Just kidding. Just messing with you. Tonight's Boba Fett coverage is being thrown into the Sarlacc pit so we can bring you a very special episode all about Ahsoka Tano. So, not actually watching an episode, but we're talking about this big time character in Star Wars. So you see here at Binging the Force, we not only want to prepare you for the very best with the very best of Star Wars before the next film hits theaters in 26 or whenever that happens, but we also want to prep you with the very best of Ahsoka before her series premieres on Disney Plus on August 23rd. But first, to break it all down, we've got a great group of people gathered tonight for tonight's episode, including James.
Hi, guys.
Michael.
I am not a Jedi.
Jonathan down here.
I am a Jedi.
All right. And myself in this corner. Ahsoka lives. So our discussion question for tonight, going back 15 years ago this week, so whenever you decide to listen to it, the 15th anniversary of the Clone Wars movie is this Thursday. So what were your thoughts at the time back in August of 2008 or whatever the heck it was that you found out that Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan during the Clone Wars and that it was this tube top wearing teenager named Ahsoka?
God, I actually saw it with this group. I saw it with the Fan Force. You know, we had a group showing in the theater, so I'm
Awesome.
trying to think back to seeing it. I mean, I just thought I remember thinking that it was just fun, that it was just like, you know, that seeing Star Wars in this whole new way, you know, on a movie screen, you know, a CG animation, and it was a fun new character. It was better than Jar Jar.
You set the bar very low there, Michael.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
I was also at said showing our age here. For me, I was excited because there was a new Star Wars movie, right? I mean, the movie was actually, you know, we realized that it was several kind of Clone Wars episodes stitched together to be a movie. But we're like, well, okay, we'll give this thing a try. And yeah, the animation was stiff. The storytelling was stiff. But we're like, okay, well, we will give this a go. And, you know, actually we're getting new Star Wars, so we will totally take that. And actually, so my opinion of Ahsoka was actually colored by the fact that I went to a convention in Dallas with another friend of mine here from Rocky Mountain Fan Force at the time. And when we went, like some of the main guests who were there was the Clone Wars cast. So I got an autograph from Dave Filoni, and you could buy this poster for the movie, and you could get go into the autograph room and get all the actors and actresses from the movie to sign it. Like Ashley Eckstein was first.
Oh, that's cool.
Go down the road, get
Awesome.
everybody. I was sitting with James Arnold Taylor, which was fantastic. And it's like you could see right away, Ashley Eckstein playing Ahsoka, she was the star. And she was the one that everybody kind of gravitated to. And so, you know, I'll talk about this more later, the connection between Ashley Eckstein and Ahsoka. But, you know, I was like, okay, well, I'm willing to give this a try. I'm willing to give, you know, I have an open opinion about Star Wars. And I realized that you got to keep in mind, Star Wars is for kids. Star Wars is for that magic age between 6 and maybe 10, 11. That's the perfect age to see your first Star Wars movie. So that's kind of the mindset I try to go into Star Wars movies.
Did you and James Arnold Taylor just sit there going hello there to each other all day?
I wish.
How about you, James? Did you see the movie in the theater back in the day, or was it later?
No, I don't want to lose any credibility here, but no, I didn't. Maybe I got it on DVD a couple years later. I had a period where I really wasn't into Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was just raising kids and stuff like that, but when I did see it, I was shocked that anybody would give Anakin a Padawan. I thought that was just the craziest idea ever because he's Anakin, right?
Yeah.
How does he interact with Obi-Wan, for one thing? He can't even listen to him, let alone he's going to give instruction to somebody that needs instructions. I was just kind of blown away. And I was really intrigued by the character. I was like, this is a very kind of different Jedi than we've kind of been given. For one thing, it's a female, it's an alien, and it's going to take a central role maybe in the future universe, future Star Wars universe. So that I thought that was pretty cool. And I think Ahsoka Tano is really interesting how she goes from this very kind of maybe more naive, spunky person to being a really wise person in the end. So just seeing her journey, really cool character.
Very cool. Yeah, I was excited at the time because I had 2 young daughters at home, and I thought, okay, this is this teenage girl. This might be a good way to get the kids, interested in Star Wars, and it wouldn't just be, dad's space movies, with all these random guys running around shooting at each other. If there was someone on screen that they were like, oh, there's teenage girls in Star Wars and they have speaking role, maybe this is entertainment I'll be gonna be interested in for the next however many years. So thankfully we're at 15 years now of Ahsoka stories and still going strong. So
how'd that work out? Did they actually take to it like you were hoping?
Yes, definitely. So I think when Clone Wars was first airing, it wasn't as easy to see like right away, with like the Cartoon Network schedules and whatnot. But once we, started getting those like on DVD each year, and then, later on with streaming and whatnot, the episodes became really accessible, and this was an accessible character, I think, for my daughters. So
I must have got mine on Netflix or something, right? Got the disc through the mail or something. Maybe I bought a version. I can't remember. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, this came out 3 years before I had a daughter, so it was much later. I mean, that's the thing for my daughter. The entry point definitely was Rey. So
were the prequels were. What year did the prequels end? Right, 99.
2005 was
2005. Okay, yeah. So I lost a little bit of a period there, unfortunately. But I eventually.
You had some blackout years, James. We understand.
I'm fired from my position.
But thankfully, now with streaming, you're able to catch up. And while I think you should, you or anyone, should watch that Clone Wars film and watch Tales of the Jedi and all 133 episodes of Clone Wars and all 75 episodes of Rebels, all before Ahsoka comes out. We just don't have that kind of time, guys.
So we're not doing that tonight, is what you're saying.
No, I was trying to do the math. I'm like, if you just had your Disney Plus play nonstop Star Wars for the rest of the month, I think it would be done in time to watch that show. But so for tonight, let's just stick to the top dozen or so moments in the timeline of Ahsoka to get you ready for the series. So these moments will all be in timeline order, not in order of importance, not in order of release order, because things were a little out of order. These are just going to be Star Wars timeline order. So what do you say? Should we do it?
Yeah. Sounds
all right.
Good.
Roll.
Do we have our intro music?
Oh, did you want the transition for this?
Let's do it.
Okay.
There we are. Now we're official.
All right, here we go. Number 12, the Clone Wars 2008 film. So the film opens up with some cool action scenes that were a little more realistic than we'd seen with that Star Wars Clone Wars, the micro series where, Mace Windu takes on an army of 1,000 droids by himself and whatnot. So it's a little more realistic. But then this opening action scene ends, and Obi-Wan tells Anakin, hey, there's a ship coming. Maybe they're bringing me my new Padawan. He wanted a new Padawan. And then Ahsoka shows up and she corrects him and says, I'm at your service, but Master Yoda actually assigned Master Skywalker to supervise my my training. So this is similar to our earlier question, but do you think Yoda made a mistake, or do you think it made sense to give Anakin a Padawan here?
I don't think Yoda ever makes mistakes, right? Isn't he perfect throughout the whole original trilogy and the prequels? And no?
No.
Well, I think this was a good idea. I may be in minority opinion here, but
Yeah.
you know, I was a teacher, you know, after I graduated from college, and I think that the best way that you can learn is to become a teacher, and I think that's what Yoda had in mind for Anakin's. It's like this kid is wild, he's crazy, he needs, you know, to kind of settle down, and then this might be the best way for him to do that. Is that you can not only learn better when you're a teacher, but you see a lot of yourself in the things that you are teaching others. And I think this is wise to try to show Anakin, put that mirror in front of him and saying, this is who you are and this is how you appear to others when you are teaching somebody as the student. I think that's, you start him down a good road with the best of intentions.
Yeah, that's a good point, that he needed Anakin to take some responsibility. And I don't think Yoda had any inclination of Anakin's extracurricular activities with Padme, you know, at this point, following Attack of the Clones. But, you know, that relationship was just getting started, even though, you know, we see them get married at the end of episode 2. But Yoda didn't know what was happening there.
Yeah.
So I think he was like, you know, we took in this kid that was supposedly too old to be trained. So he's going to need some extra people steering him. And maybe the best way to do that, like you said, is for him to take on an apprentice himself.
Yeah, and you start to see a few of the seeds of who Ahsoka is and will become, right? So you see she's loyal. She starts her loyalty to Anakin as her master. You don't see totally how she's loyal to the Jedi, but, you know, I mean, she's still kind of new to the Jedi. And, you know, you get to see, like you were saying earlier, there's this new character who is younger. You know, people can see themselves in this character, like your daughters, which is fantastic. And you always want Star Wars to kind of reinvent itself, right? And so part of that, what Star Wars did in this way, was have a younger character people can grow with, and you've got that next generation invested in the stories that you're telling.
Wrong franchise.
Yeah. I guess you guys make some really good points. I guess I kind of disagree with you. I think, you know, if you're going to be a master or train somebody, you need to have some wisdom, some maturity. I mean, did Yoda really not know that Anakin was impulsive in these type of things? And, you know, I don't know. I just think it was a really bad choice on Yoda's behalf. I think, for one thing, they were being blinded by what Anakin was and those type of things, kind of not paying attention to what's going on. But this is just kind of another, in my opinion, another big mistake that the Council and Yoda make throughout the universe. So I'm a little more critical of the Jedi.
All right. Well, on that note, let's move on to number 11. So we're going to jump ahead a year in the Clone Wars. This is season 2, episode 6, Weapons Factory. And with this arc here, Star Wars returns back to Geonosis, you know, from Attack of the Clones. And we see Ahsoka taking on more responsibility. You know, in the second season here, she's doing military strategy thing. And it's a fun episode because you've got this contrast between Luminara Unduli and her Padawan Barasafi, and then you've got Anakin and Padme. So the relationship between those other two are, you know, very respectful and by the book and everything. And then you have Anakin and Ahsoka over here that are just, you know, do whatever needs to be done, however you want to do it. Just get the job done. Do you think Ahsoka's independent thinking would have worked with any other master, or do you think at this point she's just the, you know, the perfect match with Anakin's mindset?
Oh, I think he's a horrible influence on her. He's a horrible influence on her. The things though that I do like about Ahsoka is that kind of independent, streak. But maybe she's just not a good candidate to be a Jedi, along with Anakin.
Ooh, James.
They have this religious cult, that's supposed to be really, really strict and everything, and they just kind of let rogue Jedi just kind of do what they want. So it just doesn't kind of match up for me.
James, I think you and I are going to be on opposite sides of the aisle for
Yes,
this,
I
and that's
think so.
fantastic. This is a good thing because I think it's great. I think when you have, Anakin and Ahsoka, they're two peas in a pod. They both approach their problem solving and the rule book in the same way, right? They're like,
Yeah.
we're going to do what needs to be done because we have this ultimate goal of we know what needs to be done is right. We have a moral code that we're going to adhere to. And, sometimes it aligns with, sometimes it's in parallel, aligns with what the Jedi code is, and sometimes it doesn't. And therein lies the conflict, great storytelling conflict. Because if everybody's always by the book, then that's boring, in my opinion. And it doesn't challenge your viewer to kind of decide, well, what would I do in that situation, right? I wouldn't be a person who just is like Barriss Offee and just does everything I'm told to do. But if you have somebody who creates their moral code and is challenged by somebody like Anakin to kind of see beyond what is, then you have somebody who can picture what can be. And I think that's what Ahsoka turns into.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good. I just made it up right then and there.
Yeah, I thought that arc was pretty great. I liked seeing Geonosis again, from Attack of the Clones. I thought that was cool to see it in a different light. And those personalities were so different, between Ahsoka and Barriss. It's kind of like you picture your friends from childhood. You may have had very different personalities. You may have had the same goals, but it seemed like, how do these two go together? And what are they going to be? They aspire to be something when they grow up, but what are they going to be when they grow up? As it turns out, those two Jedi had very different paths later on. But before we get to where Barriss Offee goes, let's move ahead to number 10. We're going to season 3 of Clone Wars, episodes 21 and 22, Padawan Lost and Wookiee Hunt. So in this episode, there's a Trandoshan that basically kidnaps Ahsoka, and he takes her to this planet where there's like a hunt for all these people on the loose, and he thinks hunting a Jedi is going to be a very exciting thing, and there's Wookiees brought into the mix. So it's a pretty interesting episode with all these fugitives and Wookiees. There's even Chewbacca there. Did anyone else think that was a good way to wrap up season 3? Was with this part of Ahsoka's story, or with this part of the Clone Wars? It wasn't the big picture; it was the smaller thing for Ahsoka.
James, you want to start, or shall I?
Sure. Yeah, I think it actually was a pretty good way to end it. Ahsoka, definitely is kind of that rebel or rogue kind of person, but it also shows her development kind of as a leader, right? That her morals and ideals don't totally match up with the Jedi. She's, quote, I kind of consider her like a gray Jedi, really. I think she agrees with probably 10% of what they espouse. But she shows that, she's willing to stand up, take a leadership role, honestly do the right thing. And I think she does that even when she defies the council, right? I think she's challenging them to think differently about their old dogma. And that's what I like about her.
Yeah, I agree to that part about challenging the dogma for sure. Because I think Ahsoka is good at showing that mirror that I was talking about up to the Jedi Council, right? Like, God, why is she always just like going off and doing her own thing? And do we have to rein her in? Do we have to rein in Anakin as well? So it makes for, like I said, good storytelling in this, and good character that is somebody the audience can identify with and say, like, well, what would I do in this situation? And I think in this episode, it starts off with a weak trope of a female getting kidnapped and becomes the MacGuffin that people have to go and rescue. Yeah. I think that's lazy. But I do think that, showing how you can have this character arc and this transition that she makes, not just in her wardrobe, but in showing how, like you're saying, can be a good leader. And you have to have those situations where you figure out about yourself, what would I do if I was the leader in this situation? How would I handle it differently, right? So, like, for me, I was in Boy Scouts when I was in junior high school age. And when I became patrol leader, it's like I'd been kind of watching other, leaders in this Boy Scout troop, seeing how they were handling things. And then, when it became my turn and I applied for that position, it's like, okay, well, now it's my chance. Now I need to start to put the rubber to the road and figure out how I would handle these things in that situation. And it's the same for Ahsoka. How would she handle things if she's the one who's leading this escape and trying to be the one rescuing herself and rescuing others? So it's an essential step in anybody's character arc.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a good point. I forgot to mention she did get the wardrobe change for season 3, so no more tube top. It was a more serious look for Ahsoka.
She's not a skater girl anymore. She's not Avril Lavigne. She's kind of growing up, right?
Yes, I liked the episodes though, because it was kind of a little standalone story for her. And then also them bringing in Wookiees. They even they brought in Peter Mayhew. So the animators could figure out how Wookiees walk.
Cool.
Probably wasn't necessary, but I'm glad they did it for that.
It's fun. We love the authenticity about that.
The show was absolutely a technical achievement. We are going to jump several slides ahead here because we're taking quite a few minutes on each one. So,
shocker.
All right.
I didn't know I was going to go toe to toe with Jonathan tonight.
Duking it out. This is a good one.
Duking it out. Yeah, good discussion.
Did we miss one?
We missed several. We're jumping ahead.
Okay. All right. So we skipped over Ahsoka's trial arc, when the saddest moment in Clone Wars history, or maybe Star Wars moment ever.
Yeah.
So we're skipping over that, and then what else? Then we had the Ahsoka book. A few years after that. So we thought Ahsoka's story was done, but then in March 2013, Clone Wars was wrapping up after the Disney sale and whatnot. Thankfully, a few years later, we got the Ahsoka novel, that kind of told what Ahsoka was doing during Order 66 and everything after that. And then finally, at the Clone Wars 10th anniversary panel at San Diego Comic-Con, in 2018, they announced, hey, we've got 12 more episodes, so we're going to wrap up the series. The series finale, the last 4 episodes, focused on the Siege of Mandalore, Ahsoka's return to working with Captain Rex and all these clones, and the aftermath of Order 66. Was that something you guys were satisfied in seeing? Was Ahsoka's return and the conclusion to that series? To the the whole Clone Wars series. Were you excited for that to come back and see Ahsoka again? What'd you think?
I think it's really a turning point for the character. It's like, is this character defined by this show, or is she a character who can continue on into other stories? Right? Is she somebody who is strong enough, established enough to be able to go beyond the Clone Wars and be something and someone who can live beyond that? Right? Some characters do, and some characters don't. And I think that by seeing like the passion of the fans for not only Ahsoka dressing up in costume as her, loving the steely resolve and what she represents, but also, if I might go ahead and interject here real quickly, Ashley Eckstein herself, right? Like, she's the voice of Ahsoka, but she's so intertwined with the character as far as who she is in real life, right? So she had such a cultural impact from who she is, because like every time she would be on a panel or signing autographs, she has such a connection with fans. People love her, and thus they love her character, and so it's all just becomes one kind of synergy that she has with her fans. It becomes that passion for her, translates passion for the character, and vice versa, and thus also passion for her company, her universe, and the Ahsoka products that she creates, and so it just keeps on going. And so by all these things working together, it really, in a way you didn't see with any other character, really, you get to have this real establishment of Ahsoka as the Star Wars legacy character.
Yeah, those are some great points, Jonathan. And I think Ahsoka, she's a complex character. We get to see her grow and experience things and have these moral conflicts and stuff. I think she's a dense enough character, and kind of the way they wrote her was you could almost drop her in any Star Wars universe section, right, or something like that, and she could almost carry the story. So
yeah, she's a strong enough character to be able to carry stories. Yeah,
absolutely.
I thought that last arc with her was a great send off for the Clone Wars series. Seeing it go right up into Revenge of the Sith, I thought that was just awesome. And then seeing, that she survived through Order 66, I mean, that was a huge deal because, knowing that, hey, they introduced this great character, but we don't see her in the movies, and thinking, okay, is she going to die? No, she's not going to die. She's going to leave. And then she comes back. I'm like, oh no, now is she going to die? Kind of thing. But of course we knew she wasn't going to die in Clone Wars, but it was fun to see her character there. But it really played into Anakin's mindset of attachment and maybe not so much loss like with his mother and his wife, but definitely his sense of attachment and losing his Padawan the way he did. So the reason we knew Ahsoka would not... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a big thing I remember during fandom at the time, is like, we don't see Ahsoka during Revenge of the Sith. Does that mean she's going to die? It means she's going to die, right? I'm glad that the conversation moved beyond that.
Yeah. Well, we also found out later that a lot of Jedi survived, right? And it kind of makes sense that they weren't able to eliminate every one of them, right? Just by luck, one of them would notice that the troopers are going to turn on them or something. And the majority obviously are killed. And I don't know if they ever gave us a number, like exactly how many survived, but it seems like the more shows we go along, the more there's ones that did, or maybe ones that were going to become Jedi and, I guess weren't eliminated. Right. So we kind of find out those people later, which is kind of cool. They kind of pop up.
Yeah.
So moving on to Rebels. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say we're jumping ahead to Rebels.
Sweet. So season 1's going along, and there's this mysterious character that we see Hera talking to off screen. Code name is Fulcrum. We just hear a scrambled voice, or we see a hologram. It ends up in the towards the end of season 1 in episode 15, Fire Across the Galaxy, that the codename Fulcrum person is actually Ahsoka. So what did you guys think of the Ahsoka character coming back to join up with this series 15 episodes in? Any thoughts? Because I've got one, because I freaking loved it. I freaking loved it because season 1 was like, where are they going with this, guys? Like, Clone Wars was so close to the movie. It was like, this is the stuff, that tied in with what you saw in those theatrical films. And then Rebel starts, and it's like, what are we're crawling around in vents, we're going grocery shopping. What are we doing here? It's called Rebels. Where's the rebellion? So finally, when they brought in Ahsoka, I'm like, okay, I'm down with this. I like this.
Yeah, and for me, I think it was great because it showed how this character has these different phases and evolutions in her life. Start off as a Padawan, character arc into a Jedi. But then when you no longer define yourself as a Jedi, how do you define yourself going forward? Like, Ahsoka has to look inside and says, what is it that makes me me? What is it that I want to do with my life? I still have these things of I'm a loyal person. I have a moral code. But when you're betrayed by the things that you're loyal to, what do you do after that? And I think the novel did good at that. And I think that the continuing stories of Ahsoka do a great job of showing that her passion isn't necessarily for the Jedi. Her passion is people and on a small tactical basis. Yeah. And her passion is for the galaxy as a whole.
Yeah. And relationships with people as well. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of doing a parallel to it to Japanese lore and Japanese storytelling, she's basically a fallen shogun. She's a Ronin. She no longer has a title. She no longer is a Jedi, but that doesn't change who she is. She's still someone who's going to go out in the world and use her skills and abilities to help people, just not under the title of being a Jedi. Speaking of the Jedi.
As Rebels goes on, Ahsoka shows up a few times, like at the end of each season. She teams up with Darth Maul. She takes on her old master, Anakin, who's Darth Vader at this point. At the end of the series, she comes in to kind of like move it on to the next story, and the epilogue sets it up that she's going to help search for Ezra following that series, and then. It's kind of quiet a little bit. There's a little fan campaign, and bam, we've got live action Star Wars, and we have Rosario Dawson as the live action Ahsoka showing up in The Mandalorian in the second season of The Mandalorian. Now, how did you guys feel about this transition from taking this animated character to bam, now she's a real person. She's a real life Star Wars.
She's a real Star Wars.
I mean, the one thing for me, I'm thrilled to see the character move, but it's the only one so far where they've taken these characters and moved them into live action and didn't use the original actor, obviously with the intention of her getting her own series. So they decided to go with a much bigger actor.
Yeah.
And as opposed to the other roles where the character has been taken from live action or from animation to live action, Ashley Eckstein is the only one of those actors who doesn't already have a live action career, basically. So she as opposed to like, Bo-Katan, I mean, that actress already had a very storied, sci-fi and live action career, Katie Sackhoff prior to being taken to live action, even Lars Mikkelsen, has his own live action, career. He's been in several high profile roles already prior to moving from animation into live action. Unfortunately, Ashley Eckstein is not in that category. She, her only real career so far is primarily in animation. So in bringing her, recasting a recognizable live action, actor, with sizable credits and a sizable resume prior to coming in makes sense, but is a little disappointing for fans of Ashley Eckstein and the character.
Yeah. I was a little skeptical. I was worried that it wouldn't transfer, but it looks like it's going to work. Because the character, with the voice, the person that did the voice for the animated series and the way they animated her, I feel like it's, I'm having to transition into that a little bit, but I think I'm going to get there if they do it right.
And I could and Ashley Eckstein is a strong enough actress and looks the part easily.
Yes,
who could have easily done the act. She could have easily done the part in live action.
Sure.
She just didn't have the star power to to have that role follow her into live action.
For me, it's more about how the character is portrayed. Like less so the look, more like what's the gravitas, what's the personality? Does it feel like it's the same character from animation to live action? And in The Mandalorian, I felt like, and in Book of Boba Fett, I feel like it is. I feel like you kind of see, I could see, Ahsoka over here in Clone Wars. I could see Ahsoka in Rebels, and I could see Ahsoka in Mandalorian, all being the same character, however they're portrayed on screen. Because like if they were translated live action and it looked the same, but it was totally acting different, I'd be like, whoa, what is happening here? And I feel like I wouldn't be the only one. Other fans would be in an uproar, like, you've lost the core of who she is. So. I think that's important. I feel like the show has done a good job of doing that.
Yeah, I was fine with the design changes. I'm just still somehow getting used to this character being a very mature person, kind of like someone you knew, like my own kid, knowing as a teenager, now she's 20. It's like, oh, this isn't just a little kid. This is someone that's, trying to strike it on their own in the world and is making big adult decisions on their own, which Ahsoka does now.
Yeah, it's been 15 human years, but I don't know if seems like it's been more than 15 years from Clone Wars movie to, where she is now in her latest live action appearance. But it just goes to show, there is that character arc, there is that growth and maturity to a character that you want to see. You want your character in these stories to kind of grow up with you, right? You want to see yourself continuing to be in that character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. So Ahsoka made one more appearance in Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 6. It's not a huge role. She basically shows up, and Mando gives her this Beskar shirt for Grogu, and she takes it and gives it to Luke. It was just kind of like a little reminder of like, oh yeah, she's got her own series coming up. So
it was really cool. You got to see Ahsoka with Luke. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
You got to see Luke with Ahsoka, depending on how you go.
Yeah.
I suppose so. So now that we've covered all those top moments, what do you think it is about this character that's made her so endearing with fans? And what are you looking forward to as far as what's next with the Ahsoka series?
I mean, I think it is. I think what's popular about it is when Star Wars is at its best, like you said, or as Jonathan said, actually, that it's for kids, that it's a generational thing, that she represents a generational character. It brings the story forward, and in the character of a younger person who a younger audience has now grown up with and can now see progress, story wise and character wise.
Yeah, and it's not only that, which is just fantastic and great. It's also, I think, that you like the character arc that she has taken. Part of the reason that people don't like The Last Jedi is because they didn't like the character arc that Luke had. Even though it kind of made sense, with a lot of story choices that they made, people wanted to see a character arc where Luke became the Jedi Master, leading a bunch of Jedi, kicking butt and taking names. But he didn't. He became more, Yoda and Obi-Wan hermit Luke. And so I think for Ahsoka, the character arc that she has taken, people have loved every step along the way. Nobody was like, wait a minute, she's like a spy or something in Rebels? What's going on here? Everybody was totally on board with the choices she had made because it was in sync, I think, with the character arc she had taken and the moral code that she had and the loyalties that she had and about what her passions are as a character and how people just totally identify with those and, see, like I said, see themselves in those roles and just continue to love the character, whether it's Ashley Eckstein or Rosario Dawson portraying.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
What I love about Ahsoka is she redefines what a Jedi is. Like in this series that's coming up, she's probably not going to fight fair and stuff, which is fine to a certain degree. I want to see a really badass Jedi that isn't, kind of hammered in by this dogma that they have to follow in these rules. Because sometimes in war and conflict, you can't. Even if you're a good guy, you just gotta do what you gotta do. And I think Ahsoka is kind of that gray Jedi. That's something I would really like to see in Star Wars because, George Lucas set up this whole good and evil thing. And I guess that's fine to a certain degree for kids, but there's a lot of gray in the world. There's a lot of hard moral decisions, hard decisions, in warfare and stuff that you have to make. And, that's why I love this character. And I hope to see more of that there's not just this clear good and evil, but she has to continue to make these really hard decisions that seem more realistic to me.
She may make hard decisions, but I think she still makes the right decisions. I think
she does. She tries to do what is right. Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, I think, when we first meet her, there's this innocent character that's hot-headed, but then, we get to see her storyline play out so much differently than someone like Anakin, who, Anakin wasn't that common because he, fell to the dark side. But most of the time with Jedi, they're always Jedi. Dark side users, they're always dark side. So to see this person who, is thinking independently and making those decisions in between. She's not going to call herself a Jedi, but she's going to be more Jedi-like.
Yes.
I think it's fun storytelling. So
yeah.
Very cool.
She's a force for good.
There you go. Do we have time for a trailer or no trailer?
I mean, we can. We're at 40 minutes. I would say let's leave it for the next one.
Okay.
Since the next one's going to be Ahsoka centric anyway. Still, it's going to be the Tales of the Jedi. I think the trailer in Tales of the Jedi I think is a good episode. So
yeah,
awesome, very cool. All right,
it's a good problem to have when we talk too much and enjoy our conversations, and
exactly.
me and James end up a little bloodied and bruised, but we come out shaking hands.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking it was a whole early Saturday Night Live thing between Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin. As you would make your case as Jane Curtin, and then James was like, Jonathan, you insolent slut.
Dirty slut. That's right.
Wow. Yeah, I obviously this is a pretty rich character, and we could probably go on for hours on end.
Yes, we could.
But this is probably as good a spot as any to cap it off. So we'll be back next week with more Ahsoka action with the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. If you'd like to hang out with us in between shows, send a message to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Rocky Mountain Fan Force or at Binging the Force on YouTube. So may the Force be with you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.